Good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode 10 of Wilbur Talks FPL. We're actually on 10, double digits now. Podcast where we talk everything FPL and the Premier League in general. So welcome back. A nice standard week where we haven't got to worry about international breaks, so we're back in the flow of it now. And a pretty low scoring week in general across FPL, I think, but I was more level with everyone this week compared to previous weeks, so hopefully everyone's kind of semi-happy after the performance this week, and we'll get into our performances as we get into the pod. And I'm welcoming back Charlie and Sam again this week. Are you both doing well?
Yeah, all good, thank you.
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate.
Good stuff. And I think we have to start with the fixtures just gone, and the first fixture of the week was actually Charlie's team. I swear, like Arsenal, it's either the first game or the last game every single week. Arsenal at the minute. So I'm going to let Charlie take us away and let us know what he thought of his side's performance again.
Yeah, I could start getting used to this really. So it's two weeks in a row. Arsenal first game on a Friday night, and a nice win to kick. Oh, no, it was Saturday, I suppose, but first game and starting the weekend off right. Yeah, it's very strange, to be honest. Mostly because of Leicester, and I think we said on last week's pod we're not quite sure how this game was going to go because both teams are so kind of anything could happen, and it just depends on which two teams show up on the day. But Leicester just seemed to effectively approach it in a very similar way to Aston Villa did, and unsurprisingly, the exact same thing happened. Arsenal went a couple of goals up fairly early on and fairly easily without any reply from Leicester. Leicester didn't offer very much at all in the first half. And I wouldn't say Arsenal were necessarily that amazing. They're okay. And I think the thing that pleased me most about the first half was in those sorts of situations where the other team's not offering much and ultimately we're just getting the ball back every time we want it. We don't often make use of that, and it's really nice just to see us actually play well and create things and score chances, which is, I think, in large part down to the form of the likes of Smith Rowe and Lacazette as well, and the quality of the players around the front that seems to just be gradually getting better and better, which is obviously a really good thing to see. Second half, it changed a little bit. Leicester switched to a back four, which definitely worked a lot better for them. They were able to put a lot more pressure on the ball and kind of step up a lot more. But yeah, ultimately they still didn't really create a lot. And of course, we're going to have to talk about Ramsdale, the guy that probably everyone's been talking about a lot over the weekend, and particularly one specific save against James Maddison. But actually, if anything, I think the thing that most impressed me about Ramsdale's performance was his distribution. It's slowly starting to be a thing that people are picking up on, but he pinged so many passes to like halfway line or further completely accurately that I've never quite seen a goalkeeper for Arsenal do that. Obviously, we know the likes of Alisson and Ederson have got that in their locker. But yeah, it's just another tool to the armory that's really interesting to see us be able to use. And then when you can, pull out performances like you did as well in terms of saves, then yeah, it's starting to look like we've got a really, really good goalkeeper on our hands, which a lot of people, including myself, didn't necessarily think was going to be the case. So yeah, all round good performances, and yeah, I'm kind of tentatively excited about how it's progressing, but I'm under no illusions that the next sort of stretch of games coming up. We've got Watford next, but then after the international break, we've got some tough games coming up, including Liverpool, and I'm not necessarily at the point where I think we're going to be able to get anything out of those kind of games, but I'm pleased to at least be putting away the sides that we traditionally haven't always, even though we felt like we should.
Yeah, I feel like Leicester are a strange team this season. I don't know if it's because they've got Europe as well. Just never know what's going to turn up on the day. So definitely a good result winning away at Leicester. And I think kind of what you were touching on Ramsdale, I think a lot of people laughed at Arsenal a bit when they paid that fee for a keeper they thought was going to be a backup goalkeeper, kind of to Leno. But it's not turned out that way. And I was going to make a point about that distribution as well. I think I saw some analysis where I saw one in particular where he just like drilled it to the centre circle to like Aubameyang or someone. It's like a perfect inch perfect pass to him in the centre circle. So, like you said,
And when you've got the players in that front three, for example, with like Saka, Aubameyang, and so on, that can really make use of that on the counter, and Smith Rowe as well. They're all very quick players, so that it just works perfectly to setting off a counter. Particularly in a game like that, where for so much of that first half, all of Leicester's players are behind the ball, or the majority of them are behind the ball. When you're in that one situation in your own half at a goal kick situation or whatever, you're just able to bypass so much of their midfield and get in behind. So yeah, it's a really powerful weapon, I think.
Yeah, you effectively beat the press, don't you? It gives you a bit of a different way to go about it. Like sometimes a long ball is a good ball, so sometimes got to be done, especially against those pressing teams. So yeah, as you said, positive signs, but we'll see how you go further on. I'm not sure if you'll be recommending any Arsenal assets still throughout the game, but Smith Rowe has done well the last few. We will see. So I think we'll move on to Sam's team. What did you make of your 2-2 draw against Brighton, Sam?
I was expecting us to have a comfortable win against Brighton, to be honest, but definitely a bit of a disrespect there to Brighton, who were very, very good on the day and deserved at least a point. If not, they could make a good case based on the second half performance in particular. They could have got all three. Liverpool were fantastic for the first opening half an hour. Could have been 3-0 up, had a goal correctly ruled out for handball. Then Brighton got one back. It was a little bit of a weird one. I think the ball was probably a little bit in the sun, but it can't really take too much away from the finish. It was a good strike nonetheless. Second half, straight out the blocks, Salah has a goal disallowed for offside, and from that point on, it was all Brighton, all game. They dominated us for the last half an hour of the game and thoroughly deserved to get something out of it. But yeah, no, it was quite strange, really, coming off the back of the Manchester United thrashing. If you just said before the Manchester United and the Brighton fixtures that we were going to get 4 points out of the two, you probably would have been maybe okay with that. Just in the manner that we've gone about getting 4 points out of them doesn't quite feel like such a positive outcome. But no, overall, listen, we're not going to win every game in the season. Brighton are certainly in the top half of the table from what I've seen so far this season in terms of form and play quality. So yeah, a little bit disappointed, but certainly not the end of the world when you put things into perspective. Shame Naby Keita had to go off injured. And we are going to be pretty thin on the ground in terms of bodies if we carry on picking up injuries at the rate we are, especially when Salah, Mane, Matip, and if he's fit, Keita go off to AFCON in January. So slightly less positive than last week, but certainly no time to panic, and helped out massively by Crystal Palace getting some points at the Etihad as well. So yeah, overall, not a great week, not a terrible week.
Because you've gone from that extreme high, haven't you? Obviously, Old Trafford, like I think you said last week, one of your best results ever, you'd say, from a Liverpool point of view. So there's always going to be some kind of drop off. Even if you beat Brighton 1-0, it's probably not going to be the same impact as that. But like you said, you can't win every game, and I feel like Brighton had a bit of a point to prove after getting a bit of a thrashing by City the game before. But yeah, fair play to them, they did well. I think you've linked me in quite nice as well there, Sam, to the Man City game. As you mentioned, you're happy about that result. Did you see much of that City game? And what did you think of that one?
I didn't actually watch the game. I didn't actually watch it back. I was in a little bit of a down mood after the Liverpool result. But no, to be fair, credit to Crystal Palace where it's due. I watched Match of the Day for a majority of the highlights, and from what I saw, Palace really turned it on. I think it was just one of those days, and we've all been there when if you're in Man City's camp or whether you're in United's, Arsenal or Liverpool's camp respectively, where something's just not clicking and they get a goal and you just think this isn't going to be our day. Then you go down to 10 men and it's just like the problems continue to accumulate for Man City just over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, when you think about putting our result into context, it's probably not too bad to come out of it with a point, seeing that City didn't. So an unbelievable result. Fair play to Palace. From what I saw, they thoroughly deserved it.
Yeah, I'd say likewise. I think kind of what we was touching on in the Arsenal game, I thought Palace pressing City was quite impressive. They seemed to press at the right times, and it's kind of how they got their first goal and the Laporte red card. And I think that Laporte red card was at the perfect time for them. Just when you thought City could go big in the second half, and then Laporte gets that red card at the end of the first. So yeah, fair play to Palace. It's
I'm thoroughly pleased to be able to hold my hands up and say I got Palace very wrong with relegation fodder. Yeah, fair play to Palace. They've really sorted their act out. So good luck to them for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think definitely one of the surprise packages this season so far. I think we had the hesitation about the new manager, about his experience in the Premier League, but he's done something nice and refreshing with the team, really, from what Roy Hodgson had before. So it's good to see, and it's quite nice, attractive football that they're playing. So long may it continue. We might actually have a few viable Crystal Palace options. So we shall see. So if we kind of move on to the third of the title challenges, and I'll give this one to Charlie. Did you see? Well, I'm sure there's a certain hole in there that we might be talking about from Reece James, but what did you make of Chelsea with their 3-0 win against Newcastle?
Yeah, it was very dominant, really. I think the scoreline says exactly what happened. And yeah, it's quite funny, really, because obviously we flagged those 3 games of all the title challenges, expect them all to pick up comfortable wins. And this was the only one, really, where it looked anything like that. And yeah, I just think Newcastle didn't offer anything at all. It was quite lackluster, but then I guess to a certain extent, how much can they offer? But then I guess when we see the performances that, for example, Palace put in there and Brighton as well, that does raise a couple of questions. But yeah, Chelsea were just, I think the quality just showed it was exactly what the table reflects. It was a title challenging team against a relegation threatened team. And yeah, as you alluded to, I'm very happy that Reece James picked up 2 goals. It's been very odd the way that, I think it's for quite some time Lukaku's been struggling for goals, and Timo Werner's been off and on, and it's these wing backs that seem to be getting all the goals. It must just be the way that the system's set up, because they just get in the perfect position to be able to. It's that extra person. I think it's the extra sort of stretch of the likes of Lukaku holding up the ball, and obviously he's injured now, but whoever's playing that position, so Havertz, for example, that just leaves that extra little space for the fullbacks to get round and shoot. So we've seen Chilwell get quite a lot of goals in succession, and now we're seeing Reece James as well. So when we come to the fantasy side of it, I think both can now be viewed as good options, despite the potential rotation for either.
Yeah, I think before this week as well, everyone was talking up Chilwell and kind of forgetting about Reece James because he had, well, what people thought a bigger chance of being rotated, but obviously that's kind of bit everyone in the backside. I've saw a lot of people do the actual sideways move of Reece James to Chilwell, which obviously you still get the clean sheet, and I think end up getting 8 points. So you still got a good asset there in Chilwell, but this week I think a few people got caught out by Reece James. We're also recording on Champions League night as well, and the Chelsea have actually just played in the Champions League, and that game they just played Malmo away was very similar to that Newcastle game, where they just had all of the play away from home and have won 1-0. And just as a note in that game, Alonso and Azpilicueta played fullback, and Chilwell and James didn't play any minutes at all, so you'd expect them to be straight back in at the weekend. So both of them viable options, as we said, going forward. I'm not going to speak about Havertz as much as being about a viable option, but he did get an assist, so it's better than last week. So I will touch on the Man United result. Obviously, it's a big bounce back from losing 5-0 against Liverpool and then winning 3-0. That's a bit of a bounce back completely there. I'm giving some credit to the players. Of course, 3-0 away at Spurs is good, and you can't complain about that. And Ollie doing his best Conte impression, definitely going to 5 at the back. I've seen a lot of images going around with that meme. But yeah, away at Spurs 3-0. It was one of them funny games I was watching, because I was like, obviously I want my team to win, but then at the same time, I don't particularly want Ollie to be our manager. So it was funny turning that game on, but obviously delighted with the result. And United are also playing now, and they're playing 5 at the back, sticking with a 5 at the back in the Champions League. So it looks like 5 at the back might be the in thing for Ollie to try and keep his job. But we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, can't complain about 3-0 away. But in fairness, Spurs were absolutely dreadful. I thought we were bad, and then I saw Spurs. But the 5 at the back definitely helped us, and having Varane back in that starting lineup, you could see his leadership and directing people around. And I think we will talk about Spurs when we get to the second half of the pod, as we've got a new manager in charge as of today with Conte, which I've seen quite a few Man United fans unhappy about at the same time, because he was one of the ones rumoured to be coming in potentially for Ollie if he went. So we've seen, well, a lot of discussion has now been that we can't replace Ollie because there's no other options. So we go round and round in circles like that one. But we'll touch on Spurs when we get to the second part of the podcast. Was there any other results we kind of want to touch on, guys? Any like standout results that you saw outside of the ones we've touched on already?
I think we have to give a mention to Burnley, and that's probably going to be the only time I say that this season. But yeah, turning over Brentford like that, and we've seen how good Brentford have been this season, and how they've given a lot of the big sides some trouble. And just a point generally as well, actually, because I sort of refreshed myself on some of these games with the highlights before the podcast, and so many of the finishes this weekend were really good. I'd highly recommend, if you've got the time, just to go through all of the highlight videos on Sky Sports, the football channel, because it's there was so many good high quality finishes, and in this game in particular, actually. So Chris Wood's his opener was a really great first time finish. The Brentford goal as well was a very good finish, and yeah, I think particularly Cornet kind of interests me as a signing for Burnley, because he doesn't really fit the mould. It kind of reminds me of the St. Maximin to Newcastle kind of thing, and this one kind of flair player amongst the team that's really kind of playing a more defensive and 4-4-2 traditional English style. But he does seem to be working for them, and he obviously got the goal here. He's picked up a few goals so far. I think that's maybe just the right sort of direction to start being a bit more progressive. We've obviously seen how defensively they've struggled, and that's definitely going to be something they need to address. But it is interesting just seeing how this extra bit of flair added into the team actually turns what's quite a defensive and a team that has sort of a lack of output into a team that can actually be a bit more exciting to watch. And Chris Wood's quite a reliable goal scorer. Doesn't tend to score really high numbers, but usually around double digits most seasons. And that kind of combination can work well enough to keep them up. And that is, I think, all they can really hope for most seasons at the moment. And they seem to do it. And as I say, yeah, turning over Brentford is no mean feat. So yeah, I just wanted to call that game out, I think.
Yeah, definitely a good one to pick out. That first half from them, probably the best Burnley football I've ever seen in the Premier League. I think they even had another goal ruled out. It could have easily been 4 or 5 in that first half, just absolutely trouncing it. And I think it's the first time we've seen a bit of flexibility in the 4-4-2 tactic, because the trying to go between like a 4-4-2 and a 4-3-3 at times, because they're trying to get that Cornet and Dwight McNeil a bit further forward from what I've seen. So actually seen a bit of change in tactics from Dyche, which we've not seen. Seems to have been a bit stubborn. I think it was actually his 9-year anniversary with Burnley on that day as well. I don't know, is he still? He must be the longest serving manager in the Premier League, is he? I can't imagine there's anyone else out longer than that.
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, nice to see a bit of change there. But one to look out for, yeah, I've also been looking at Cornet as a possible one. I think it's around the 6 million mark, but if you just have the same kind of image in your mind, don't you? It's like a Burnley player. You just, unless you're on like a double game week or not, they're not normally tempting you in. But it's definitely one to watch out for there. Was there anything outside of that you wanted to touch on, Sam? Any other fixtures? We've also got a live score update that Man United are currently 1-0 down in the Champions League. Fantastic.
What a surprise.
Wow. Surprise. No, West Ham, to be fair, brilliant result away at Villa, 4-1. They just continue to just rack up points, rack up wins. And we've kind of run out of superlatives to talk about West Ham so far this season, but I feel like you're constantly waiting for them to sort of slip up almost, or it feels like there should be a retraction at some point, but they really do look like they could be the real deal. And we were talking in the first couple of weeks about how when they get involved in Europe, how that might really trouble them and whatever, but the similar 11s playing Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Monday every week, and they're really keeping it up at the minute. So fair play to West Ham. I can't believe they scored 4 goals and Antonio didn't contribute in any of them, though. It's unbelievable.
I know, I think he got 2 assists of the assist, which is just standard FPL for you, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very interesting with West Ham. Well, I think they've won 3 out of 3 in the Europa League, so they're kind of guaranteed to get through the group. Well, one more positive result out of 3, so it's very much guaranteed. Be interesting when it gets to the knockout stages how serious they take that, because you could argue them winning the Europa League is a better chance of them getting in the Champions League than in the league. And I think they'll have to make that decision at one point, because I don't think their squad is as strong as it needs to be to compete on those different competitions. So it'll definitely be one for them to look at further down the line.
I think definitely when the bigger teams start dropping down to the Europa League, that's when it's going to get tough for them to keep it up. But then you might say that that's what all of this good stuff now is for, is it kind of puts them ahead enough so that they can drop back a little bit. But actually also from that game, I just wanted to pick out Aston Villa and how their defence just seems to have fallen off a cliff. But at the beginning of the season, they weren't too bad. But ever since, it's quite ironic, ever since that United game, they've seemed to have, they did well in that game, and Martinez's certain tactics against Ronaldo for the penalty and everything, and Fernandes. Ever since then, they have really started conceding quite a few goals, and it is just picking up my attention fantasy wise as being interested in players playing against them, because they seem to be, despite having a keeper that we all know has got great quality, they seem to just be conceding a few goals. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if we saw some kind of Livramento return this weekend.
I also had a team that I was thinking about defensively not being very stable. I think it's a good point about Villa as well, but I was thinking Everton recently. We saw them concede 5 to Watford. I don't know if you caught the Wolves game yesterday as well. Like, Wolves could have easily been 5-0 up at one point in that first half, and then second half they played a lot better, Everton. Somehow Fabian Delph actually changed the game. I don't think I've really said that ever, but Everton, I think it could be one to be tagged in. I'm surprised how open they've been for a Rafa team, but that's just one to look out for. I think you'd expect them to tighten up at some point based on the manager they've got, but it might be the fact that they're missing a few players that's just not working for them at the minute. But like I said, they did nearly get back into it in the second half, but it's another one to look out for defensively. So I think that's a good coverage of the fixtures we had. It was good to see Rafinha back doing well for Leeds as well. I'm sure a few of us were happy about that. So if we just touch on how we did in the game week, I'll let you go first, Sam. How did you get on in FPL this week?
Another pretty good week. 57 points against an average of 42. Pretty solid week overall, I would say. Mendy with a clean sheet, Chilwell clean sheet, Livramento clean sheet. Rafinha with a nice contribution against Norwich. Salah with the assist in the Liverpool-Brighton game. And then Jimenez bagging a goal yesterday as well was much appreciated. So 57 points overall. Pretty happy with that. Good return in what I think is generally one of the lower scoring weeks of the last few. Happy to get above average. I always class that as the benchmark as to how well you've done over the course of the week. I actually think 57 is a decent score. So pretty happy with last week.
Yeah, just looking at, like you said, it's obviously quite a decent amount over the average. And I was looking at your rank as well. You've actually gone up in rank which
So close to the top 10,000.
I know, like 10,500.
So close. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so
Because I
close.
think I looked at like live ranks of us all before the Wolves game, and I think it dropped down a bit before the Wolves game. And obviously,
Yeah,
hitting
that's
headers
it.
propelled you back up there. So
2,911th in England.
nice.
Oh, different gravy, that.
Just touching distance.
Yeah.
It's getting to his head now. Watch out.
No, we're only as good as the last week. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
We know where we are. We're very grounded in our team. We're very grounded at Lombardrass.
In fairness, I think both of you are doing pretty damn well. So we move on to Charlie's there. How did your week go, Charlie?
Yeah, really well. Finished on 61 points, so very, very slowly chipping away at Sam's lead. Just needs another 10 weeks like this, and then I'll be in and about the fighting for the title. But basically as good as it could have. The only error I made was starting Foster ahead of Ramsdale, which on reflection obviously turned out to be a very poor mistake. But in fairness, Ramsdale probably had the game of his life, so I don't think I necessarily could have called that. I just felt there was enough to back the potential Watford clean sheet over an Arsenal one, but I guess I've got to start believing in my own team a little bit more. The double City defence is starting to concern me a little bit. I don't know. It's one of those where I feel like there's going to be periods where they do really well, and there's going to be periods where they don't. And it just feels like they've been conceding a few too many for me at the moment. So I think I mentioned it before. It's on my mind that I could potentially move down to one, and if so, it would probably be Diaz leaving, because I just like the attacking threat of Cancelo, and even the difference in potentially a benching. But as we've talked a lot about, I still think Cancelo is such a good option. Obviously, Reece James massively improved the score with his 2 goals. Got a bit lucky with Mount, who didn't start, and then I meant that Livramento came off the bench for me. I've got to learn my lesson eventually. He's going to play next week, so I'm not going to be benching him anymore for those kind of games. And just a few sort of individual contributions from Saka and Rafinha, just helping push the numbers up. So pleasing week all round, really.
That's what Livermento's there for, though, isn't he? He's like everyone's favourite bench player, just to get on with the point, so can't be complaining about that. I saw you'd gone up. Can't remember what your rank was, I just had it up, but you've gone up in the rankings again. Was it about 30 odd K you're at now as well, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm about 34K at the moment.
Yeah, so you're both going strong. I might not touch on my rank increase. But yeah, for my week, 2 points above the average with 44. Not much to write home about here. Very similar to you guys. Livramento, Rafinha, Salah captain, and then a lovely Havertz assist that we've been waiting 2 weeks for. But apart from that, strikers all getting 2, exactly what you want. So not really much. At least we were not playing catch up again playing catch up on you two, but at least we weren't behind the average. Let's say that. And the only points I really missed out on was Ben Rama on the bench. The benching dilemma, and typically his assist he got as well. He squared it to Rice on the edge of the box. It was like the most. I'm not going to say lucky, but he didn't have to do much for that assist. But yeah, like we said, Antonio avoiding the points, and then all the other attackers picking up points. So typically there, and I think my rank went up by about 10,000, but when you're over 1 million, 10,000 isn't much of a percentage change, so a lot of work to be doing on my rank, but nice and early in the season, so like I said, it's more positive week than it was last week, so we will go from there and hopefully make some inspired moves in the weeks to come. See, with that wildcard up my sleeve still at 1 point. But one of the reasons I was keeping a wildcard as well was because of the Club World Cup, which is now being delayed from December to January, which is just typical. So I was trying to have an optimal strategy around making sure I had no Chelsea players for that run, because they'll be away at the Club World Cup, but now that's gone to pot, so we'll work on a different strategy to use that one the best. But we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, you're both going strong. Good to see it. So we're kind of at the natural midpoint, so I think it's quiz time, guys. if your brains are clocked in.
I feel like we need a jingle.
Yeah, we do need some jingles and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. So from my memory, Charlie won last week.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, so I've got
Can't
it
remember
as
at this
5-4 to Charlie because I remember because we had to go to a tiebreak the last 2 weeks, and whoever guesses first somehow has the advantage because it kind of gets in the other person's mind when it comes to points. Because we've had Bonner last week, weren't we?
Yeah, something like that.
So, well, hopefully you don't draw again. But we are going back to the trusty, in my opinion, my favourite version of the quiz, where you have to guess the player, basically. I'm sure you guys can remember how it worked. So if you get it by me giving you their points for the last 3 fixtures, you'll get 3 points. Then I'll give you the fixtures, you'll get 2 points, and then I'll give you a final clue, which hopefully should give it away a bit even more, and you can get 1 point for that. I'm pretty sure you can remember how it's done. We're both good with that?
Yep.
Right, so seeing as Sam lost last time, we better let him go first this time to try get in Charlie's head. Right, so we shall start. Can find him, there he is. Right, so your first player, Sam. In game week 8, he scored 2 points. In game week 9, he scored 13 points. And in game week 10, he scored 9 points.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm not going to lie, I think I've turned up the difficulty level slightly this time because I want one of you to win.
Yeah, that is tricky. Well, I know Rafinha scored 9 points this week. I know Jimenez scored 9 points this week. I don't know. Let's go for. I can't think. Did Jimenez get 30? No, I would have known if he got 13 points. Rafinha, I don't think Rafinha played. I don't think it's right, but I'll guess Jimenez.
No, that's incorrect. So the fixtures this player played. So in game week 8, to get 2 points, they played Crystal Palace. Game week 9, to get 13 points, they played Aston Villa. In game week 10, to score 9 points, they played Leicester.
Yeah, I think I know who this is. This is Emile Smith-Rowe.
That is correct. I didn't want to give it to Charlie because I thought we might get it and get 3 points for the first guess.
You're going to get a Liverpool player, Charlie.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would have got it. Well, I think by the time that you worked out it was Arsenal, but I don't think I would have got it first time just because I've tried to stick my head in the sand about Smith Rowe because I've got Saka.
Yeah, you might. Yeah, you might have. I think it was good that Sam got the 9 points, but then you were struggling, weren't you, with the game week 9 to work out who would have got 13 points before that.
Yeah.
Right, so we'll go to Charlie for the next one. So your player, Charlie, in game week 8 scored 1 point. In game week 9 scored 15 points. And in game week 10 scored 10 points.
What on earth? 1, 15, 10. Okay, so I think we could. That's such a strange number. 1, 15, 10.
I thought these first two were nice number spreads.
Yeah. I think we could probably rule out a goalkeeper or a defender. There have been some quite high scoring defenders, but I don't think 15 and 10 in consecutive game weeks.
15 to get 21, didn't he? So you do get high scoring defenders, as your team found out this week.
Yeah, but 15 and 10 in consecutive weeks. Okay, 15, 10. I think I'm working on the assumption that's a midfielder, maybe. Does that add up? I'm not sure. I'm not even sure who got. I'm trying to use Sam's logic. Who even got 10 points? I don't think anyone in my team got 10 points. I'm going to go with. I can't even make a reasonable, educated guess. I'm going to go Zaha.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
So your player in game week 8 just to score 1 point was playing against Man City. Your player in game week 9 to get 15 points played Southampton. And your player in game week 10 to get 10 points was playing Brentford.
Okay, so it's a Burnley player. Well, I don't know if there's any of them that are capable of getting that other than Cornet. So it's got to be Cornet, unless it's Chris Wood, but I don't remember him getting much last week. So yeah, I'm going to go Cornet.
Yep, that is correct. I was like, when he was talking about him earlier, I was like, has he seen the quiz? I was like, what's going on? Yeah, so that is correct. So 2 points as well for you. So we go back to Sam. Which one should we go for here? Right, we'll go to this one. So your next player, Sam.
Yep.
In game week 8, they scored 10 points. In game week 9, they scored 10 points again. And in game week 10, they scored 2 points.
Christ.
I think this is a bit harsh because you've got to remember the past weeks. There's not much to think of from this week.
That is interesting. 10, 10, 2. Wang?
That's incorrect. So your player in game week 8 to get 10 points played against Man United. Game week 9 to score 10 points played against Brentford. And game week 10 to get 2 points played against Arsenal.
Right. Okay. Oh, it's a Leicester player. Progress is slow on this one. Well, my initial instinct was Vardy, but I don't think Vardy scored against Brentford. I can't remember who got. I know Tielemans got one, but I can't remember who got the other one. So it could be the other one, but the only other player I can think that scored, I can't think who got assists. Let's go Tielemans.
That is correct.
You say correct?
Yeah, it's correct. It was
Nice.
Tielemans. Yeah, I don't know who scored the other goal in that Brentford game, to be fair, but Tielemans scored a goal in both of those matches against Man United and Brentford and got all the bonus.
Nice. We'll take that.
Yeah, nice little 2-pointer there. And that was one of those ones where it's like you get the team, but then it's not always clear when you've actually got the team what player it is. Right, so back to Charlie. So your next player, Charlie, in game week 8, they scored 6 points. In game week 9, they scored 3 points. In game week 10, they scored 11 points.
11. Well, working back off my old logic, that sounds like a midfielder with the 3. Although 6 for a midfielder. How do you get 6 as a midfielder? An assist and a clean sheet, I guess. That's tough. Who got 11 points this week? Someone must have done well. Can I guess at Jorginho?
Incorrect. So your player in game week 8, when they scored 6 points, was playing against Everton. In game week 9, when they got 3 points, they were playing against Spurs. And in game week 10, when they scored 11 points, they were playing Aston Villa.
Okay, so that's a West Ham player. It definitely can't be Antonio because he didn't score this week, frustratingly. What other West Ham players have done well? Going on my logic again, so it must be a midfielder for West Ham. I don't think Ben Run has done well enough to do any of that. Certainly not 11 points. Is there any chance it could be a defender with the 6? I don't think so. So I guess that only leaves us with Bowen or Fornals. Again, I don't think Fornals has done enough. So I'm going to have to go with Bowen, I think.
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
So your logic on the 6 and the 3 was correct. Like he got a clean sheet in both, and then the assist in the first game,
Yep.
And then he got a goal and assist and 2 bonus points in the 11 points. So yeah, you both level after 2 as usual. not going well to separate you now, but I will argue it gets quite difficult. I think I'm going to throw in a difficult one for you both now, just to get you apart on the points. So good luck with these next 2. That's all I'm saying. Right,
Here we go.
Back to you, Sam. So in game week 8, this player scored 3 points. In game week 9, this player scored 4 points. In game week 10, this player again scored 4 points.
Okay. I don't remember the last time I saw 4 points for anyone.
I think I've been pretty cruel with this one, to be fair.
I have absolutely no idea.
If you get more than 1 point on this, I'll be highly impressed. You'd be lucky to get 1, to be fair.
I have no idea. I don't even know. I wouldn't even know where to. I don't even know where to guess. I don't know. Thomas Partey.
Is that what you're going with?
No, actually, you already had an Arsenal player. That's a naive guess, that is. Of all the guesses we could have had.
It doesn't mean I can't use the same team twice.
Yeah, but you're better than that. Trying to think of a midfielder for like. I don't know. I honestly have no idea. Neves, Ruben Neves.
No, that's incorrect.
All right.
Right, so this player in game week 8 played against Brentford to get 3 points. In game week 9, this player played against Norwich to get 4 points. And in game week 10, they played against Newcastle to get 4 points.
All right. So it's a Chelsea player. Interesting. Well, it can't be it can't be a goalkeeper, or it can't be, well, it's got to be a midfielder because the strikers are all injured. Goalkeepers and defenders all got clean sheets, so that narrows it to midfielders. They got 4 points, so they scored 3 against. Sorry, it's 3 points, 4 points, 4 points.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right, okay, so 3-0 against Newcastle. I mean, 4 points is like 9. Is plus 60 minutes, clean sheet, and like maybe 1 bonus. I don't know who got the bonuses, so I don't even know why I'm trying to walk down that path because that's not going to help. I was trying to think about this a bit logically. So, goal scorers against Norwich. Like Havertz was the only one who wasn't involved, I don't think. I don't know how many points Havertz got this week. I'll guess Havertz. I'm not sure if that's right.
No, that's incorrect.
Okay.
Right, so I feel like I've got to give you a decent sized clue on this one to get you anywhere near it. So in game week 9 and 10, when they scored 4 points in both game weeks, they only played 26 minutes in both of those fixtures. Exactly, they came on as a substitute in exactly the same minute in both of those fixtures. So I'm hoping that gives you a bit of a key to how you can work out how they got 4 points.
Let's go through Chelsea midfielders then, I guess. Mount, Havertz, Hudson-Odoi, Kovacic. No, he probably would have played Ziyech. Ziyech did come on against Norwich, I think, but I don't know if he came on against Newcastle or if he even played. I don't know.
Extremely horrible, this one.
Like a kid. Oh, I don't know. Could be Loftus-Cheek. It's basically flip a coin between. I don't even know if it is. Let's go. I don't really know what returned other than Reece James scoring twice against Newcastle. I'm very uneducated on assists and anything like that in that game. So it's basically performing off Norwich. Let's go Ziyech.
No, that's incorrect. You did mention his name right near the end.
It's Loftus-Cheek, is it?
Yeah. That was a very cruel that one.
If it helps, I had no idea.
That's brutal.
Well, I mainly remember it because I think it was for Mount's hat trick. He took an awful touch and he had to square it to Mount to get an assist in that Norwich game. So nightmares about that one. But yeah, I was thinking, well, it's more about if you knew who had played for Chelsea in that Newcastle game, because the fact that they came on as a sub probably could have ruled most of them out.
Yeah. No, I really didn't have a clue. So
that's fine. Like I said, I had to make it difficult.
Firing blanks.
I
Hail Mary 3-pointer soon to pull that back.
Yeah. Right, back to Charlie. So in game week 8, this player scored 6 points. In game week 9, this player scored 2 points. And in game week 10, this player scored 6 points again.
Right, 66. So that sounds like a keeper or a defender getting 2 clean sheets out of 3. So which teams actually got clean sheets this weekend? Arsenal did. Palace obviously did. United did. And Chelsea. Which out of those do you actually go with, though? Gonna guess Ben White.
Incorrect.
Yeah.
So this player in game week 8 was playing Leicester to score 6 points. This player in game week 9 was playing Liverpool to get 2 points. In game week 10, this player was playing Spurs to get 6 points.
Okay, so it was a United player. What was the first game, sorry?
They were playing Leicester.
Leicester.
And they got 6 points.
You lost that. Yeah, but you lost that game, didn't you? I think so. I think you lost that game, which means aren't of. So maybe it's not. And yeah, the 5-0 against Liverpool, they would have lost. If it was a keeper or defender, they would have lost. What's that? 2 points. That's a -2. So maybe that's the part of your little ruse is to make me think it's someone else.
No comment.
Okay, I think that's now ruling out keepers. Maybe it could be a defender. Definitely don't think it's David. It can't be David Area. I'll go with Bruno Fernandes.
Incorrect.
Okay.
So, as your final clue, the player in this run has scored 2 goals.
Okay, so I was on the right lines. So, and 2 goals. Goal for a striker is 3 for a, or is it 4? 4 and then. Wait, they've scored a goal. Striker goal is 3. It is 4. Sorry, I'm getting my numbers all mixed up. Striker goal is 4. Midfielder is 5. But then the only strikers that United would have been Ronaldo, who definitely got more than 6 points this weekend. I don't think it could be Cavani. So in that case, if it's a midfielder 6-2-6, so it's a midfielder that had 2 bench appearances and goals, all got yellow cards. God, this is hard.
And you can't say I'm unfair. I'm making sure it's the same kind of difficulty.
Yeah. I can't even remember who scored against Spurs. I know Ronaldo got 1, but the other 2 I can't remember. Yes, there's Martial as well, but I don't think he's been playing. Striker would be easier, but I don't think. And Greenwood, don't think he played at the weekend. Who else is there? Lingard. Don't think he's got anything recently. Rashford, maybe. I know he's been on a bit of a run lately, or at least been looking good. And I guess that would make sense for him to come off the bench. I think I'm going to go Rashford.
That is correct.
Oh,
That
was really tough.
I thought you might get thrown off by Cavani because he did score in that game, so I thought you might think he got 6 points as well.
I was probably helped by not actually being able to remember that game because I might have chosen him, but I couldn't remember who else scored in that game.
Yeah, so Rashford scored, but he came on as a sub for the last 19 minutes.
Yeah, I seem to remember him coming off the bench in a couple of games.
Yeah, and just as, of course, we've done a United-themed question, Man United have actually equalised, so it's 1-1 on the stroke of half time. So win out all round there. Right. So I think we'll do at least one more, and then we'll see how we stand after this last one, maybe. So we'll give Sam a chance to redeem himself if he can manage it. You ready, Sam?
Yeah, when you are.
Right, game week 8, this player scored 2 points. Game week 9, this player scored 12 points. In game week 10, this player scored 0.
Crikey. Oh dear. Right. I mean, 12 points must have been from a decent haul. But there are a lot of teams that had decent hauls in that previous game week. Obviously, Chelsea ran riot. City beat Brighton. Liverpool thumped United. Watford also scored 5. We've had an Arsenal player. We've had a Chelsea player. I can't remember if we've had a City player. I'm going to try. I've got to try. So I haven't got a clue. I need an absolute pluck from nothing here. I don't think we've had a Liverpool player. We have. Oh God, this is so stupid. I'm trying to think of so many players for the.
Yeah, especially
Right, I'm going to send it on a Liverpool player. I'm going to send it on a Liverpool player from the United game. So it's got to be one of the goal scorers. I can't even remember if Jota came on against Brighton. No points in the last game week, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Brilliant. Well, the goal scorer against United is obviously not Salah. Keita got the first one, and Jota got the last one. I might be barking, and Mars at the wrong tree. I'm going to go Jota.
That's incorrect.
Oh, brilliant.
Right, so yeah, well, I'll rule out Liverpool for this first one. So in game week 8, this player played Liverpool to get 2 points. In game week 9, they played Everton to get 12 points.
Oh, so sick.
In game week 10, they played Southampton and got 0 points.
Okay. So, in the Everton game, Josh King got a hat-trick. So I would think it unlikely to be Josh King, because that should be 12 points on its own. Assuming he got 3 bonus points as well. That's going to be 15, plus maybe some minute points. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't think it's Josh King. The only other player I know to have scored in that game was Dennis, because it was the week after I took him out. And I have no idea who scored the other one. So I'm going to guess Dennis.
That's correct. He came on for 26 minutes and scored a goal and got 2 assists, got a yellow card and got 2 bonus. So it was an eventful 26 minutes.
I'll take it.
Got bad memories there of taking him out of your team.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, it worked out all right last week, specifically. But yeah, no, that's right.
Cool. Right. So back to Charlie. So in game week 8, this player scored 1 point. In game week 9, this player scored 7 points. In game week 10, this player scored 6 points.
176.
Yep.
Okay. That's a bit all over the shop, really.
That's what we love.
It's hard to even determine who that would be. Like what type of player. I guess it could be like a defender or keeper getting a bonus point in the 7, but conceding 2 in the first to get the 1, maybe. I think we've even got 6 points. I mean, I know Saka got 6 points. I don't think it's him, but I don't really have any other guesses. I'm going to go Saka.
Incorrect. So in game week 8, to score 1 point, they played against Arsenal. In game week 9, to get 7 points, they played against Newcastle. And game week 10, to score 6 points, they played against Manchester City.
Okay, so that's a Palace player. 176. So then it could be their defence, because obviously they got a clean sheet. I can't remember what they did the game before. I think they drew. That was the draw to Newcastle, so maybe it's not their defence. To be honest, I'm not even sure exactly who their defenders are, so I don't know if I'll be able to go with them anyway. The only one I can think of is the keeper, so I'll just go Greater.
Incorrect.
Hmm.
So I might put you in the mud here because this final clue is not going to be like what you're hoping for.
Okay.
You can guess what position I'm going to tell you who he is.
He's a defender.
He's a defender, yeah.
Okay. Well, for obvious reasons, I've been keeping it. I've not even been looking at Crystal Palace defence.
What's that? Keep a clean sheet against Man City. May as well be looking at
True.
him.
Good point. Fair point. Maybe going forward. I mean, the only name I can remember is Van Aanholt when he left, so we're not going to do very well. Joel Ward, I know, is still there, I think. Kiate, I think, still plays in defence. Yeah, I'm really struggling. I think I'm just going to have to go with Joel Ward because I can't really remember anymore.
That's incorrect. It's Mitchell.
Oh, Mitch, I even know, I remember him because he came in for Van Aanholt when he was injured last season.
Yeah, and he's literally played every single game this season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in the first game against Arsenal, he's conceded 2 goals, so only got 1 point. The Newcastle game, they conceded, but he got an assist and got 2 bonus points. And then Man City were just a straight clean sheet. So the game has changed. So going into the last round, Sam leads by 1 point after that round. So going on to the last one to see if Sam can secure it.
Here we go.
All right. So your last player, Sam. Game week 8, they scored 8 points. Game week 9, they scored 8 points. Game week 10, they scored 0.
8-8-0.
Yep.
God, you don't make this easy, do you?
There's no fun in that. I've got to watch you both squirm.
I have absolutely no idea. I mean, you have to play something out of the air of a team that hasn't been said yet, I think.
Yeah, I'll say if you get this right, you're guaranteed to win. Like if you get it on 3 points.
If you get it right on one player, I'm going to go to VAR.
I don't even know how I could possibly. I really haven't got a bloody clue. I don't even know who. This is crazy. It's so difficult to just pluck a name.
Yeah.
Especially when the most recent game week is the 0. You kind of think you might know a few.
Can't make it too easy.
No, of course not. I really don't know. Armstrong, Adam Armstrong.
That's incorrect.
Yeah.
Right, so in game week 8, they played Leeds to get 8 points. In game week 9, they played Burnley to get 8 points. And in game week 10, they played Watford to get 0 points.
Oh my God, it was a Southampton player. Oh, no way. Oh, no. Oh, no way.
Of all the teams.
That is so sick, man. That is so sick.
So if you get this right on this go, Charlie has to get it on 3 points on the last go.
Well, Charlie, rest easy because I know it's not Livramento and I hardly know any other Southampton players. So,
Unless you ruled out Armstrong.
well, yeah, at least we know it's not Armstrong, and I doubt it's my man Ward-Prowse either. So, there's that young guy at Southampton there, Ricky's raving about, but I don't know if he did enough to get 8s, and I would absolutely butcher his name. Well, they drew with Burnley, so it can't be. They got 8 points, and it's not Livramento who scored one of the goals. So it has to be the other goal scorer, but I can't remember who scored the goal, so that's no use. Let's have a guess. Nathan Redmond.
Incorrect.
Okay.
So your final clue is that they're a striker.
Wow. So close with the first guess.
That is so sick. That is
Southampton striker.
so sick.
You probably only got like 3 or 4 in the game or something. I can't believe that first guess.
I don't really know like the right way to pronounce this guy's name, but I know I'm going to say completely the wrong name, but I know who I'm trying to say. It's so frustrating.
You can say it and then spell it, but I still ain't got a clue what you're saying.
Is it like something? I don't want to butcher this guy's name. It's like Borgen or something like that, or Borgia or
It's Broher.
Broher.
Yeah, something
Are we
like
allowing that? Borgen, come on.
Come on, man.
By
That's
the
not.
time we've got down to Southampton strikers, and we've
You,
already got
hey, Charlie,
I
you're lucky
think-
to still be in the game after Armstrong come out of nowhere. To be fair, that's.
I will allow that because I
I'll
knew
take
what he was
my
on
point.
Yeah,
about.
we know
I'll
we
take
know
my
who we're
point.
talking about.
Yeah.
Take the point.
Right, so going into Charlie's last one, Sam has got a lead of 2 points. So 3 to win, Charlie, 2 to draw, 1 or lower, and you've lost. So
3 seems very, very unlikely.
no, you never know. We shall see. So your last player, game week 8, scored 7 points. Game week 9 scored 12 points. And game week 10 scored 2 points.
Okay. 7, 12, 2. 6, 7. So that could be a midfielder scoring a goal in the 7. Although no bonus is a bit odd if a midfielder scores.
You need to pull out an Armstrong type guess here, but it's slightly closer.
It feels almost particularly if the same as if it's a 0, the most recent one being a blank doesn't really help. Who's done well recently but blank? I go with Edward, Palace striker Edward.
Incorrect. So that goes to chance of the win. You can still draw. No pressure. So game week 8, they scored 7 points against Everton. Game week 9, they scored 12 points against Spurs. In game week 10, they scored 2 points against Aston Villa.
Okay. So that means it's going to be a West Ham player. 7, 12, 2.
because I can use players from the same team twice. Let's put it out there, Sam.
Well, there's one obvious one that blanked recently. I feel like that'd be quite a ballsy move to pick probably the most talked about player from the team, though, as our last one. Who else would have blanked in that game? I'm guessing could it be a defensive asset? 7 and 12 is a lot for a defensive asset. Or it definitely wouldn't have been Fabianski. I don't think he could have got to 12 in any of the games. Unless there's a midfielder I'm missing that did well, but blanked. I think most of them picked up something in that game, so I'm assuming it's going to be a defender. And if it's a defender, the likelihood is it's going to be Cresswell because he's been doing well. But then there's also that other guy, Johnson, that's come in and looked good. Can you remind me of the games again?
Yeah, what do you want? All the information? Do you want? So
who they played against?
Yeah, game week 8 was against Everton when they scored 7 points. Game week 9 against Spurs where they got 12 points, and then Villa in game week 10 for 2 points.
So they only won 1-0 against Spurs. And Antonio scored because I remember he got the points in my team. So it was who got the assist in that. I can't remember Johnson doing anything in that game. So I think that gives me Cresswell then. First game was Everton. I can't remember that far back. My memory doesn't stretch that far. I'm going to go Cresswell.
So you've managed to draw again, still. It's like draw without fail, It's literally every single time.
And that flipped so much. We were like 2 points, 3 points difference at one point. And
I know, there's a round where Sam got 0, you got 1, and then the next round it went 2-0 the other way, and then it ended up being 2-1, so you went leveled out, and it's like, right, so it's that time again where I go find a random player, and we'll play that game.
Closest to.
It's just typical, that. Right. I feel like doing this. Shall I do this? I'm going to do it, I think. Just to be absolutely cruel. Right, so who won last time then? So, I don't know if it's an advantage to let someone go first now. So Sam is losing overall. He's currently 5-4 down. So I'm going to give Sam the option if he wants to go first or second. I'm not going to tell you the player though.
I'll go second, please, Will.
Okay. So Sam made a decent guess quite recently for Adam Armstrong. So how many points do we think Adam Armstrong has got so far this FPL season?
Okay.
I just had to rub it in a bit more.
Well, I can't really talk my logic out loud properly. On game week 10 just gone. I'm going to go with $35.
Okay.
35?
Yep.
Unders.
You going under?
Done. Send the point. See you next week.
Yeah, it was 27.
Oh, not that far off. Sam made it sound like it was absolute marvel.
Yeah, no, to be fair, that was a bit old, but I'm pretty confident it was under 30. When you went 35, I was nailed on.
Yeah,
It's definitely an advantage going second in that, by the way. 100%.
yeah, definitely is.
It's not
I
proven
just
that the
guess
last 2 weeks,
34.
though.
Guess 34, and you can cover everything under, I guess.
Yeah, so he's only got 1 goal and 2 assists this season, and then mainly just actually playing points, but he's also not played every single game. He's played 8 out of 10, 8 out of 10 games. So yeah, that level's up again. So of course it had to be level. So overall, you're now 5-5.
Yeah, it was deliberate. So
Yeah, you did it on purpose, didn't you? So.
Yeah.
Right, so let's get off that then. Seems like we can never split yet. And we'll talk about the next game week, which I'm not going to say the same statement I say every time. It seems like we're going flying through the season. But we're on to game week 11. So I think we'll go to the quiz champ for this week, Mr. Sam. Is there any particular fixtures you're looking forward to in game week 11 that you think are standout fixtures?
I'm particularly nervous about going to West Ham away in the form that they're in at the moment. I am nervous about that one. If we can get 3 points out of that, that'll be massive. The obvious one that stands out is a certain Manchester derby at lunchtime on Saturday. I don't know how you're feeling about that one, Will.
It's very indifferent. Like I've said, it's a strange time at the minute. I think I'll probably need some time to reflect on it after the result tonight as well. But based on obviously the weekend's results, you could argue it go either way. I also saw, I don't know how serious it is from the Champions League game, that Varane has gone off injured. So I think that could be big to actually decide in that game. So I wouldn't be surprised if City actually beat us. It's probably not going to be a 5-0, but probably like a 2-0 to City kind of thing. I'm not expecting a great deal from us, but you never know. Ronnie can turn up in the big game. It could be another one where City drop points. Even if you drop points in yours, Sam, it might not be too much damage. I think Chelsea's the one you're going to need to be looking out for at the minute, keeping up with them.
Yeah, I think Chelsea are just setting unbelievable pace at the minute, and they will have a dip at some point. It's just a case of, while they're flying high, trying to keep onto their coattails as much as possible. So, tough game away at West Ham on Sunday evening.
Yeah, the form they're in at the minute. I feel they're coming a bit better in defence as well. I feel like at the start of the season they were all about goals, but now they've gone to that kind of like sturdy at the back. But now I've said that, you'll probably smash 5 against them or something. But in fairness,
it's a really interesting game week in general, actually, because there's a few fixtures that are sort of like teams that you would expect to sort of be in and around each other at the end of the season.
Yeah, well,
like you'd probably think Southampton Villa would be similarly placed. At the start of the season, you might have thought Brentford Norwich might be similarly placed, like Palace and Wolves, Everton Spurs.
Arsenal and Watford.
I was going to say that one.
Arsenal. I deliberately didn't say that one. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be it'll be an interesting game week. Plus, having 3 games on at the same time on Sunday as well. So, I think Arsenal. I think you're on TV, aren't you, Charlie, on Sunday?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, the most important one's on TV. Yeah.
That's a bit of a strange, isn't it? There's like some decent games there as well. Like I'd argue you'd want to watch the Everton, Spurs, and Leeds, Leicester, especially with
Conte's first game.
First game, yeah. I'd argue that's the most one-sided game out of the 3, the Arsenal game, but could not turn out that way. We'll never see yet.
I don't know. I think Leicester should comprehensively beat Leeds, to be honest.
Yeah, but like we said earlier, Leicester want a bit funny in a minute. I'm not fully convinced, and they've got Europa League as well, haven't they, on Thursday?
Yeah, that's true.
You're never sure what Leicester's going to turn up at the minute. Like we've seen, they beat United pretty comfortable in the end of the other week, and then they've lost to Arsenal. So it can flip either way, really. But yeah, it's a good point about that. They were all quite even games. I think it makes like picking out some of the standout fixtures a bit easier. So like we've touched on Chelsea, that has got to be one of the standout fixtures that we're targeting for this game week, just because it's a title challenger. against like a mid-table team. So it seems the most obvious one to be targeting there. I'd argue even Charlie's fixture you could be targeting. Arsenal, you fancy yourself for some points in that one, Charlie?
Yeah, I would. I don't think it's probably the wrong time to start bringing Arsenal players in if you are going to think about it at all, just because of the run we're about to go on. But yeah, certainly for this as a one-off game, say you were going to wildcard next week, I don't during the international break, then I don't think it's a bad move at all. Looking at an Arsenal player for a 1 week punt, but yeah, long term it's not going to be a great move. But if you've already got them, yeah, absolutely, obviously you're going to be playing them.
Yeah, because I was looking at the fixtures for Arsenal. Because to be fair, they've got Liverpool 12, but then they've got Newcastle and 13. So I'd be holding your Arsenal ones to at least 13 if you just bench them against Liverpool. Definitely.
Yeah, but there's the fixtures after that as well, though, because we've got your lot coming up, and then Everton as well, and West Ham. Just the kind of fixtures. I'm sure there are going to be better options potentially over that course of 5 or 6 fixtures.
I guess if you've got like a Smith Rowe or something, and you're rotating him anyway, you might not necessarily have to get it out there, because you say Man United and Everton, but they're not necessarily the worst fixtures at the minute. Like the show on FPL as a 4 in red, but like United should tie it up. Like we said about Everton as well, not being the best, so you never know. I think because you've got that value, especially in the Smith Rowe, you could always bench him if you've got other fires to put out in your team.
Yep.
But we shall see. So I think one of the main things I mentioned at the start of, well, in the first half of the pod, is about Spurs' new manager. Are either of us, well, any of us, looking at getting any Spurs players in the near future? I'll go to Sam first on that question.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think Conte had a lot of success at Chelsea with a 5-back, and obviously Spurs signing Matt Doherty never really sort of got going to the same degree as he did at Wolves, and Reguilon's sort of been a bit hit and miss on the other side. But if those two, and we're jumping through a lot of hoops here to assume that Spurs are just going to get straight into a 5-back with those two at full-back, and obviously they've got Emerson in there as well now as competition, but potentially ones to keep an eye on. But if Spurs do start playing a 5-back regularly and attacking threat from those two becomes viable, then you could look there. I think the obvious one to start, if you're looking at players for the here and now, is Son. I am certainly contemplating the jump to Son in midfield this week. Townsend hasn't quite pulled his weight since the wild card, so it's probably it's between a couple. But yeah, Son certainly potentially more attractive option. I mean, Everton away isn't exactly a terrible fixture, and then they have a rather nice run of fixtures, Spurs. So I can see why they appointed Conte now, actually, looking at it.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about the wing-backs as well. I feel like Emerson is a lot more likely to play than Doherty. I feel like we've not seen Doherty in ages. I don't even remember him playing many games at all. So I feel like they've only recently signed Emerson, so it's more likely to be Emerson and Reguilon as the full-backs, but I'd be going Reguilon if he was going for a defender. Obviously, he probably needs to give it a week or so, well, maybe 2 or 3 weeks to see how they're set up. But it's quite good for an FPL point of view that we're going to be able to see them for one game before the international break, and then we can kind of have to think about it over that long break. I think with Son as well, it's going to focus a lot, depending on how well they use their wing backs. But I feel like Son is going to be more central, more forward. It makes it an even better asset than he normally is anyway. And obviously there's Kane there to be considering at the same time. Like you'd expect with the form he's had over previous seasons, he'll snap out of it at some point and get banging in the goals. What do you reckon of the appointment, Charlie?
Yeah, I think it's really good for them. I thought it's quite ironic how you mentioned earlier the fact that it was the United win that ultimately ended up leading to the Nuno sacking that then got them Conte, which he would have been a better fit at United with the backing he would have got. But it does surprise me, because I think sort of in real football terms, the fact that in his last 2 jobs, I think it is now, with Chelsea and Inter, Conte's ultimately left because of a lack of investment and a lack of backing from the board, and that's what's happened to most Spurs managers, with Pochettino and Mourinho and Nuno a little bit, although they have spent some money. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's the way that this goes. But maybe they are going to make a change, and they are, now that they've got a manager that has won more recently. Obviously, when they brought Mourinho in, he was kind of on a downward spiral, I would say, downward trajectory. Whereas Conte is a regular winner. Obviously, only won last season, the Serie A. So, I think it's a great move for them. As long as he gets the backing he wants, and like you guys have touched on, the wing backs certainly come into play for a fantasy perspective. I'd be going Reguilon as well, I think. Although I think defensively is probably better just to wait a little bit longer. I think Son's an easier move just because he's been playing well regardless of how Spurs have been playing. And he's always just been a good option. So now that there's going to be actually more structure and more of a focus to how they play, it just makes them even better. I was already looking at him and how I could bring him into my team for this run. So the fact that they're now going to have a winning title winning manager in as well as maybe just a shift in form. We've seen how Kane has been not at it, whether that's to do with the whole Man City stuff that went down. Maybe this is what he needs to kind of shift his attention and get him back playing the way that he has done previously. So that all means good things for them, really. But I think Son would be my priority out of anyone, and then maybe Reguilon if it does start looking good for them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, like you kind of said, that Son has been in decent form all season, and then outside of that, like Kane and your Reguilon are more a wait and see. Like, I think we've got the international break. You never know, someone might get injured in that international break, so Son's probably worth the risk, and you've only got one in there, and he could still return against Everton, even if you've got in there this week, like I mentioned about Everton's defence. So it was going to be an interesting one to see how it develops, and gives us a bit of encouragement for Spurs going into that decent run they've got. I'd even argue that Everton is a decent fixture as well, so definitely should be looking.
There's also no guarantee that he goes immediately into his sort of trusty 3-5-2 or 3-4-3. He didn't at Chelsea. He started with a back four, but then that's just probably more because that's how they were set up before he joined. And then it was actually, and this is the reason why I remember it so specifically, it was after we beat them, I think 3-0, a very comprehensive win at the Emirates that then triggered him to then change the system and go into his tried and tested. So I guess maybe the fact that Spurs are more used to a three at the back, they've played in that a few times, although they have got rid of some of their centre backs, so maybe that plays a part in that. But maybe the fact that they're more used to that and have played that more recently may make it easier for him to implement that straight away. But again, it's just going to be a wait and see to see how he best fits the team together to start, and then it may change as it goes on.
Yeah, I feel like that centre back position is where he's going to have to work out if he wants to go for the 5 at the back or the 4 at the back, because I'm not thoroughly convinced by Spurs' centre backs in general. I think he could still go with 5 at the back because they recently got Romero, didn't they, in the summer? And Romero is used to the Serie A style of play, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to be one of the main starters in that team. But I'm not overly convinced by the other centre back options. So I feel like if not in January, in the summer they'll be looking for at least that centre back to kind of play into Conte's style. I heard 100 million transfer budget that he's got to use at some point, but it's definitely wait and see. It's one of them ones where you need a bit of information. We can speculate how he's going to play, but then he might not even play 5 at the back, so we'll keep an eye on that one. And especially, like I said, with that international break, don't be making too rash decisions. Don't just be wildcarding and being Spurs triple in straight away. Just keep an eye on it. But we've kind of touched on certain transfer ideas we've got, and just before we go into that, me and Sam have just been saying that Atlanta have made it 2-1. Fantastic news. But yeah, Sam, what are your transfer plans then for the next game week?
Yeah, so I have 2 transfers in the bank, so I will be using one of them. I think the move I'm actually going to go for is so Townsend is coming out. I think I'm going to go. I want to go Son, but I want to just see how Spurs settle under Conte and what role he plays in that link up, and it could be a little bit of a risk not having him against Everton. But I was genuinely so impressed by Brighton in the second half against Liverpool. I'm actually going to take a bit of a punt and put Trossard in for this week. I think Brighton have a decent run of fixtures, and I can't see Trossard being too involved in terms of international football. Then they go Newcastle at home, Villa away, Leeds at home, West Ham, Southampton, Spurs, Wolves in their next 8. So I think I'm actually going to take a bit of a punt with Trossard this week. He's got reasonable point return. Played as a false 9 against Liverpool, so if he does play in an advanced position, we love midfielders playing as attackers. So I think I'm going to have a punt with Trossard.
Very interesting one. I wasn't expecting you to come up with that one, but then I looked
No.
at the fixtures and there's a lot of green in there, like you said. So I do quite like that. It's a very differential one there. Yeah, 1.5%.
I just think, like being in the position I'm in now, Salah, Rafinha, Buemo, Antonio, Jimenez, then they're going nowhere. Cancelo, Alexander-Arnold, Chilwell, Livramento all set. Mendy set. There's a couple of positions where I can just afford to sort of have a go with a couple of players during the week.
Definitely.
I would like to think Trossard at home against Newcastle is going to outscore Townsend at home against Spurs, but you never know. I might take Townsend out and he scores a brace and Conte's in pain, but who knows? I was just so impressed with Brighton against Liverpool. I thought they played unbelievably well, and it might be a different setup against Newcastle at home, and Trossard might be out on the left, and Mopé might start up top again. But I think Trossard might get a few points, so I'm going to go with Trossard.
Yeah, he always tends to be one of the most attacking players for Brighton, whatever system they use. So I quite like that one. It's a decent punt, to be fair, especially that 1.5% owned.
Yeah,
You're making the big moves to jump into 10k, aren't you?
Well, we've got to try and do something. I've never been in the top 10k in FPL. In fact, last week was my highest result ever. This week's my new PB. I really want that top 10k, and it's going to have to be like another Manchester United disaster class against City, to stop like Ronaldo scoring or whatever, and then I'm going to need like Trossard to get a hat trick and Burnley to scrape a 1-0 at the Bridge. And who knows? But then I'm going to need Antonio to score against Liverpool. I'm not a fan of the thought of that. So
yeah,
I don't know. One other player I was sort of tossed to and fro between, or tossing about, was Gallagher for Palace.
Yeah.
I already have Edouard, so I don't really want to commit to double Palace because I think it's a bit of a tough one to try and get out of later down the line. But if I didn't have a Palace asset already, I would certainly be looking at Conor Gallagher. Sorry.
Yeah, I think they've got a few decent fixtures, aren't they? But I don't think it's kind of similar to Brighton, isn't there? There's a few difficult fixtures in there, but yeah, I don't think double up is a bit too far, isn't it? But yeah, definitely like that Trossard one. That's definitely one very differential one, and it should do you well.
Another player who played very well against Liverpool for Brighton, who's moved to the Premier League this year from Spain, a bit of a FIFA favourite, in Cucurella.
Mm-hmm.
He was outstanding against Liverpool, but I don't know if his performance is sort of rewarding through the points metrics of FPL.
Yeah,
So have to see how that works in going forward. But if he starts picking up a couple of assists, that could represent decent value in him. He was so advanced so often. Be a good one to look at.
Yeah, I've seen a few Lamptey appearances off the bench as well, so I'm sure he'll be in everyone's thoughts.
Lamptey went off injured against Liverpool.
Did he go off injured again?
He came on and went off. So
difficult for him at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah, like those shouts. How are we looking for next week then, Charlie? What are we thinking for your team?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. In a similar position, I've got 2 free transfers. I'm quite happy with my first 11 for this week. So it's probably my only doubt is about Mason Mount and this illness that he supposedly has. So I'm just going to be waiting to hear on that, because that may influence what I go with. Because if I don't have him, then I'm going to be starting Antonio, which isn't the worst thing in the world. It's not outside the realms of possibility he scores against Liverpool. But if Mount's going to be starting, then I could probably be looking to change someone on the bench and get a bit of value, rather than if Mount's not going to start, then I'm going to probably want someone that's more likely to get some points on the bench.
I don't think
so it kind of
travelled today, did he, Mount? I don't think he even travelled.
Right.
So,
Okay.
well, I know it was like an illness, wasn't it? So I don't think he'll be out for long. But there's rumours he should be back for Burnley, but it's one of them funny ones, isn't it? So just got to watch out for it.
As always, wait until press conferences at the end of the week. That will help.
Yeah.
But so the move will probably be one of Antonio or Diaz potentially out. I was going to bench Diaz this week anyway because I've got the double city, and I think I'm happy just starting Cancelo of the two. And then so it could be one of those two, and then just sort of downgrade them to get a bit of money ready to fund the potentially a Son move in for Saka, or Foden as well. They're both kind of on my radar at the moment of players that I want in. So just kind of a bit of rearranging just to get a bit of extra money into the midfield.
Yeah, it seems like you're both in decent positions. Well, I'm like, what the hell? I haven't got. The main issue I have, like, I want to make certain moves, but I've still not got a Chelsea fullback, so it's kind of am I too late on that Chelsea fullback train, or do I just need to kind of like add the essential at this point? That's the bit that I'm stuck with. And I'm looking at the Spurs guys. I could get Kane in, but I can't get Son in without getting rid of Havertz, and I want Havertz for this week. Obviously, he's not returned as hoped, but he was always a free week one. So if I was going for a Spurs, it's more likely at the minute that I'm going to roll the transfer, so I have two for after the international break, because I think that'll be help. But if I'm going to make a transfer, I feel like I'm getting forced into being Kane in, because that is the only one I could bring in at this point in time. But I'm not fully convinced. So at this point in time, it's probably going to be a roll, unless I feel like I need a Chelsea wing back, because I was just like looking at my team, I've got Semedo instead of a Chelsea wing back. That's such an easy swap. So I'm a bit on the fence at that one at the minute. Most likely it'll be a roll, but we'll keep an eye out what goes on. I think the fact that Chilwell and Reece James were both benched and didn't play any minutes tonight has put the fullback for Chelsea in my head again. So on the fence, we'll see. It's probably a roll, but I'm sure you'll find out. And we'll have to, if you get in the top 10k in the next game week, Sam, it's international break celebration on the podcast, so no pressure.
Absolutely. That's what
we're aiming for. If you can have a stellar week as well, Charlie, you can join in. I'd need like a 300 point week to get in there, so there's more chance of you two getting close. But I'll try getting the top million. Is that all right? But yeah, was there anything else we wanted to touch on the fixtures coming up? Anything else we wanted to note?
I guess maybe just on captaincy, there's an outside shot.
Yeah.
Like obviously everyone's going to go Salah, and that's just the way it is at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact, and maybe it's just the sort of recency of it, but the fact that you've mentioned about both fullbacks for Chelsea missing out to today's game, that does just put it in the back of my mind of whether or not I want to try and captain James. But again, I think that there may be an aspect of chasing points and the fact that he did so well last week. Is he really likely to do anything like that again? I don't know. I think the closest I'm going to be sort of dare to do is put him as vice captain and keep Salah captain.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely going to be on my mind, and I'm going to think about it. But it does feel a little bit like this week. There's more. Like obviously last week it was just a very obvious captain to go with Salah, but I think this week it's more. There is a slight potential of looking elsewhere, particularly with those rests to those Chelsea fullbacks, and that's what sometimes the European football can actually be really helpful in predicting some lineups. If you see, players that are regular starters being benched and having that rest, that kind of guarantees you. So that does help a little bit. But yeah, I think ultimately I'm going to chicken out and just go Salah anyway. But it's just food for thought anyway.
Yeah, I feel like between now and like maybe the African Cup of Nations, this is probably one of the hardest fixtures Liverpool have. So if you were going to captain someone else, it's not a bad bet. But obviously we've seen the extremes like 2 weeks ago where it can go badly against you. Because obviously West Ham are a good side, but there's nothing saying that Liverpool couldn't easily win that game and score quite a few goals. It could even be like a 3-3. So it's very. I think if that hadn't happened 2 weeks ago, a lot less people would. And obviously, if Salah's not on the form he's on, there'll be a lot more differential captains. But I feel like 80% or so of players will definitely go in on Salah. There'll be more differentials than there were last week, but there'll just be that fear factor still there, won't there? So yeah, you have to blame me there for getting the captaincy entirely. I was wary that we scheduled a space for 9:30, so it was distracting me. Would you agree with that, Sam, about Salah? Is your armband going to be on Salah?
Oh, 100%. I don't think there's any option but to give it to Salah. And actually, when you're at the top of the league, and that doesn't mean that as a brag, even though
Humble
that sounded
brag.
very, very arrogant.
Protecting.
But
Actually-
it is just genuinely a sincere advantage to have that position. And I've gone for the vice captain of Chilwell this week, as you know. Charlie was talking about vice captaining James, but the problem is Salah's just going to have my armband now indefinitely until the African Cup of Nations situation gets sorted out, or we get any more clarity on that. And that really puts pressure back on everyone else, really, because if Salah performs and they don't have him with the armband, then it's going to be just a growing gap. And that's one of the most underrated power moves in FPL, I think, is if you just know if someone's 1 point ahead or 40 points ahead, it doesn't really matter as long as they're ahead. You kind of feel like you almost need to. Well, Charlie's in a position now he doesn't really need to take the risk of captaining James and it backfiring. Maybe if there was 5 game weeks to go or something and he needed to make up 20 points, or if I needed to make up 20 points with 5 game weeks to go or something, then I'd think about, Reece James might be a decent shout for a captain option. But for now, I see no reason not to captain Salah. And in terms of the long run, it might just be smart to cover off that base and then sort of look to pick up your differential points elsewhere throughout your team, really.
Yeah, I think it's the fact on the ownership as well, isn't it? Because everyone's going to be captaining him.
Yeah.
And he's now 71% owned. So the damage he does to you if you don't captain him, like you can have him in your team and still get serious damage because everyone's captained him. I think it was 199% ELO at the weekend, which is just ridiculous. It's probably one of the highest ever outside of a double or triple game week. So that's the scary part, and obviously we've been burnt in the past. I think, the only fixture that would tempt me would be that Chelsea fixture. But the fact the only Chelsea player I have is Havertz, and we've been there before, I don't think that's going to happen.
If you really wanted a differential, then you could look at one of the Brentford boys at home to Norwich, Tony or Mbeumo maybe, or maybe even Pinnock as a fullback. But I wouldn't advocate captaining anyone other than Salah, who likes scoring at West Ham away, and just likes scoring in general, really. So seems a sensible pick.
Yeah, I think that Burnley results put a bit of doubt in there about Brentford, so I don't think.
There's doubt about Brentford, perhaps, but there's certainty about how bad Norwich are. So,
That's always a guarantee. Well, then they lost by 1 goal to Leeds, but obviously Leeds are doing tragic pretty much as well. It's just Rafinha at the minute isn't carrying them.
Yeah, literally.
But yeah, it looks like it's going to be Salah all round again. But yeah, apologies, nearly missing out the captain. See, debate there. But well, in fairness, it might not even become much of a long section at the minute because it's just Salah most weeks at this point, especially when they've got an easier fixture. So did that cover everything you wanted to mention about the fixtures, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Yeah. And the update to sign off the podcast is United are still losing going into the final 10 minutes. So we're not going to stick around to cry the last 10 minutes. And
come join us on Twitter.
Yeah. So we're going to go over to cry on Twitter instead. So we're going to do our first.
That is so dangerous. You're leaving the safety of the pod to step out in the jungle of Twitter.
That's probably worse. We should just stay on here for another hour and just avoid the space. There could be some toxic Man United fans, but we'll see. As Sam just mentioned, we're going to do our first Twitter space. So basically, you can come along. We're going to try and make it a standard thing after the podcast. We normally record the podcast midweek around 8 o'clock, and then we're going to try it's normally a Tuesday or Wednesday we have the podcast. So try do a Twitter space from around 9:30. If you want to check that out, join in the conversation, you can ask any questions in there. So that would be good. If you want to come along to that, just check out the Twitter, which will be in the description, and if you're in the Twitch chat, you can put it in the command as well. So we are going to go over to there, as soon as we're slightly late, but everyone's probably watching Champions League anyway, so I don't think it'll be the biggest issue. But thank you, Charlie and Sam, again. And I think we're probably going to do a pod within the international break we've discussed. It might be a bit of a season review so far, but we will be back next week, even though it is the international break. So we will see you for episode 11, where hopefully we can separate these two guys in a quiz, because it's just becoming ridiculous, isn't it? But thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you on the next one. Have a good rest of your evening.